We'll close our eyes and we'll just begin to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouths. Feel our sitting bones begin to root into the ground. And then as we inhale, we're expanding all around our belly, our side body, into our backs, nice and supported. We grow all the way up our spine. Our shoulders are soft. We lift from the top of our head. And then we'll seal our lips, inhaling and exhaling through our nose. Couple breaths in through our nose, out from our nose. And then inhale, lifting our hands up to the sky, opening up those fingers nice and wide. We can give them a little wiggle, roll around in our wrist. Feel those shoulders drop away from our ears. The strength all around in our torso that we've built with our breath. And then exhale, let's bring those hands forward. Our chest will come forward into a little forward fold here. And even round the back, tuck our chin a little bit. And then as we inhale, we'll begin to roll our way up, stacking each vertebra one on top of the other. Hands come up to the sky. And again, folding forward, bringing those hands forward, letting the chest fall. And then again, inhaling, we'll roll our way up. Pulling those shoulders back, lifting the heart. And now exhale, we'll just walk our way around to the right. Our right hand can find a spot behind us. Our left hand just touches the thigh on the opposite side. Inhale, we lengthen. Exhale, we just do a little bit of a twist. And then back to the center. Lengthen, and then we'll twist around to the other side to the left. And then back to the center. Good. Inhale, we lengthen. Let's go around to each side again. Just a little twist. Get that spine moving. And back around to the center. And then around to the left. And then back to the center again. And then our hands can find the mat. And we'll come up onto our hands and our knees. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Our knees are underneath of our hips. Pressing into all of our little fingers. Tucking our tail ever so slightly to open up that low back. Pulling the shoulder blades apart. Lengthening in the neck, in the spine. Good. And then as we exhale, we'll round into our cat. Tucking our tail, tucking our chin, lifting our spine up to the sky. And then inhaling, dropping the tummy, and lifting the heart and tail. Good. Exhaling to our cat, rounding and lifting. Inhaling, arching and lowering. Good. Exhaling cat and inhaling cow. Let's do one more cat and one more cow. And then we'll find our neutral spine again, making sure that we're not just drooping and hanging. We're pressing and opening up those shoulders. Tummy is working. And then we'll lift our right hand out in front of us, reaching those fingers, and then we'll press the left heel back behind us. And then lowering down to that tabletop. And then inhale, we'll reach the left arm out in front of us. And we'll press that right foot back behind us. Reaching with those fingers, pressing with the heel. And releasing back down to our tabletop. Let's do that one more time each side. Right hand and left foot, reaching, pressing, lengthening, breathing. And exhaling down. And inhaling, left hand, right foot. Good. And back down. And now let's reach out the right hand and the left foot. Turning that left hip down to meet the right, making sure we're not opening up, keeping the hips level. And now when we're going to reach back, try and find that left foot with our hand. Grab the toes or the ankles, and we'll pull back the shoulder, kick into the hand, lengthen, lift the chin, open up. And then gently we'll release and back down to our tabletop. Other side, left hand, right foot, find our balance, find our reach, pull that right hip down, and then when we reach back, find our fingers around our toes or the ankle. And again, keep pulling that right hip down, flat hips, which will pull the shoulder back just a little bit further, opening up the chest. And release. And back down to our tabletop. Let's do one cat and one cow. Nice and easy. Good. Back to our neutral spine. And we'll just do some little wiggle waggles with our tails. So we'll bring our shoulders and our hips to one side, trying to touch them, and over to the other side. Wiggling our spine like a happy puppy. Do one more to each side. Make it even. And then we'll find that neutral spine. We'll soften the feet and we'll just come on back to child's pose. Our hips find our heels, arms are out in front of us. And we just lower that chest down. Good. From here, let's walk our hands over to one side. Open up that side body a little bit more. Keeping the hips over the heels. And then walk our hands over to the other side. And then back to the center. Fingers are wide, pressing into the mat. Let's inhale up to our little plank. And we'll exhale and lower our chests down. All the way down to the mat. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. As we inhale, we'll scoop that chest forward. And then using our back muscles, lifting it up off of our mat to baby cobra. And then we'll press back to child's pose. Good. Inhale up to our little plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, we'll scoop our chests up. And then exhale, we'll press back to our child's pose. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling up. Exhale, we lower down. Inhale, little scoop. And then exhale, we press back into our child's pose. Good. And now keeping our hands where they are, we'll press into those fingers and lift inside the palm just the tiniest a bit. It'll just barely touch the mat. And then we'll tuck our toes underneath. We'll stretch those feet out, our ankles, our arches, little toeses. Good. And then hands and feet stay where they're at. And we're going to begin to lift our hips up and away from our shoulders, pedaling the knees and the feet as we wiggle our way into our downward facing dog. Alternate, pressing one heel down into the mat and then the other. Get those calves woke up. Stretching our shoulders, wiggle our tails, and then beginning to settle into that pose, bending the knees, pressing into the hands, pulling the shoulders back away from our ears, lifting the hips, lengthening in that back, and then slowly and gently pressing the heels down into our mats to straighten those legs a little bit further. Good. Inhale, let's come forward into a plank. Plank can be on our toes or it can be on our knees again. Pulling those shoulders back, nice tight tummies. Exhale, chests go forward, elbows go back as we lower our way down. And then inhale, we can do baby cobra or we can come up to upward facing dog. We'll tuck those toes, lift the hips, press into our hands for downward facing dog. Good. Inhale, let's come forward. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Tucking the toes, lifting the hips, downward facing dog. Good. And now let's walk our hands backwards towards our feet, pressing those heels down into the mat. Bending the knees if we need so that our hands can still be on the mat as we walk backwards. Bending the knees so that we can release those hands and we're still in a nice comfortable spot in this forward fold. Good. Bending the knees so we can round our way up. Slowly, slowly, slowly. We've been upside down for a little bit. Hands can be to our sides for Tadasana. Pull the shoulders back, lift the heart. Big breath. Good. Inhale, let's lift those hands up high. Good. Exhale, let's bring those knees and thighs together. We'll sit down into our chair. Arms can be big circle, and they can come back above our head if we like, or we can bend the elbows if our shoulders are just not working with us today. Good. Inhale, big circles back and up. And exhale, let's sit down into that chair. Big circles forward. Good. Inhale, big circles up. Exhaling, sitting down into that chair. Let's just move with our breath a few more times. Flowing with our chair. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Moving with purpose. As we sit down, we're nice and strong. Exhaling down into our chair. Let's inhale up. And now exhale, let's sit down into our chair and we'll hold our chair. Bring those elbows closer together, sitting down, and then tucking the tail so that we're not arching the back. We're nice and long. Squeezing into those thighs. Beautiful. Inhale all the way up high. Good. Exhale, let's little back bend, cactus arms, lift the heart, hips come forward. Inhaling up. And then exhale, let's fold forward. From here, let's do a half lift. Looking forward, hands can be on the floor or our shins or thighs. Nice straight back, long legs. And then exhale, let's fold forward, hands find the mat. And we'll walk our way forward into a downward facing dog. And let's lift up that right leg back behind us. Good. And we'll step forward into a lunge. Lengthening that leg behind us, bending the knee in that right leg. Good. We'll keep the left hand on the floor and we'll reach the right up to the sky. Little twist and then sink those hips back down into the lunge. Good. And back to our lunge. Let's step back, downward facing dog. Good. Inhale forward into our plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Tuck those toes, lift the hips, pressing back for downward facing dog. Good. Lifting up that right leg again. And we'll step forward. And now we're going to drop that left heel back behind us. So our toes are pointing off to the left with our left foot in front of us with our right foot. We'll come on up for warrior two. Bending that right knee, opening up the left hip, sinking down and lifting all the way through our midsection. Reaching our fingers out in front of us. Good. Let's drop that left hand, reach up the right for reverse warrior. Good. And now let's come down to side angle. So our right arm can find the thigh, left hand can reach for the sky or reach above our head. Opening up the shoulders, we should still be able to look to the sky past our arm. Good. Keeping everything in our lower section the same. We're just going to lift that right hand back up to the sky, reverse warrior. Good. Back to side angle. Good. And now let's just make a big circle with that left arm. Both hands can find the floor. We'll step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, we'll come forward. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale into our choice of back bend. Tucking the toes, we'll press back for downward facing dog. Good. And now we'll move on to the other side. So we'll lift up that left foot. Press it back towards the sky. And we'll step forward into our lunge. Nice long right leg. The knee of the left leg is straight over our ankle. Our backs are long. Our chests are proud. Good. The right hand will stay on the floor, and then the left hand comes up to the sky. A little twist here. Beautiful. And back down to our lunge. And now let's step back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward to our plank. Plank can be on our knees or on our toes. Our lunges can be on our knees or on our toes. Let's lower our way down. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. We'll tuck those toes, lift the hips, press them back to our downward facing dog. Good, let's lift that left leg again. And we'll step forward. We'll lower that right heel and we'll come up into warrior two on this side. Sinking down, lifting the heart, trying to stack our shoulders over our hips. We're not reaching forward. And now right here, let's turn our palms up and see what that happens to our elbows. So now the elbow wants to bend this way. We'll keep that crease where it's at, and we'll just turn the hand. So we still have a good spiral in that arm instead of just turning this way. We're just turning in the forearm. Very good. And now let's drop that right hand, lift up the left. Reverse warrior, sinking down, lifting the heart, looking toward those fingers or even past them. And now lowering that arm back down for side angle. Lifting the ribs away from that right thigh. Good, back up to reverse warrior. And then side angle again. Good, big circle with that right hand, finding the floor with both. Let's step back, downward facing dog. And from here, let's walk our way back to our forward fold. Good, inhale to a flat back, half lift. Exhale, we fold. And then bending the knees, we'll roll our way up, reaching our hands up to the sky. Good, knees and thighs come together. Let's sit down into that chair. Strong chair, so we should feel our tummies pressing in toward those thighs because we're nice and active. Good, and now we're gonna take our hands and we're just gonna put them around our waist like a little C so we can feel those muscles working. If we can squeeze and not find any resistance, push back with those lats or with the obliques and our abs. Good. And now inhale all the way up, shake it out. Whew. Good. Excellent. And now exhale, let's fold forward. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, we fold. Now we should be feeling a little bit more loose, a little bit more warm, walking our way out to our forward fold, or to our downward facing dog from our forward fold. Good. Inhale forward to our plank. And now from here, we're just going to drop that left knee, keeping the right leg nice and long. Left hand will stay on the floor. We'll lift up the right hand to a modified side plank. Good. And back to our plank. Both hands on the ground, both knees up or both knees down, that's fine. Exhale, let's lower our way down. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Tuck those toes, press back to downward facing dog. Good, let's lift up that right leg. Gonna kick ourselves in the bum, open up that hip. And then step all the way through to our lunge. Inhale to a high lunge. And now, lengthening both legs, we're gonna turn to the left, opening ourselves up for star pose. Big wide legs. Tuck the tail, lift the heart, drop the shoulders. Good, let's exhale to a fold here. Big wide-legged forward fold. Good. As we inhale, we'll bring those hands right underneath of our shoulders to our flat back. Good. And now from here, we're going to keep our left hand on the floor. We're going to lift the right hand, but we don't want to shift our hips when we do this. So coffee cup test on our hips. We don't want to spill the cup if we tried to balance something on our tuchus. Good, and lowering that right hand. We'll switch sides. Right hand stays on the floor. Left hand comes up. And back down. And now let's drop the head back into our forward fold. Let's bend the knees, work our way up to star pose. Hands come together at the top, big wide legs. Toes are pointing out in front of us. And now we're just going to bend this left knee, bring our hands to our hearts, and sit down. Right toes can come up off of the floor as we sit into a side lunge. Press into those palms to lift the heart. Good. Inhale, let's come all the way up. We'll point those right toes to the top of our mat, and we'll come all the way down to our lunge. Good. Stepping back, three-legged dog. Kick that right leg back behind us. Good. And now bringing that knee into our chest, and we're going to touch that right elbow with our knee. Good. Pressing back, three-legged dog. And now we're going to cross, bringing that knee into our chest, and we'll cross over to the left elbow. And press back. Good. And now let's bring that knee into our chest, and we're going to bring it all the way behind the right wrist for pigeon. Walking that left leg back behind us, pulling the left hip forward, right hip back. Sinking down with those hips, making sure that we're staying level as well as even with the front of our mat. If we're happy here, we stay here. If we would like, we can walk our hands forward, keeping that back nice and long as we lower down to our elbows or all the way down into a fold. Couple more breaths here. And then we'll slowly help ourselves up to our hands if we are not already there. Keeping our pigeon, we're going to keep that right hand on the floor. I'm going to bend that left knee back behind us. Reach back with our left hand. Try and pull that foot in towards our butt. And continuing to move that left hip forward, which will lengthen our quads. Gaze can come forward. Breathing into the belly, into our back. And then we'll gently release that foot. We don't want to whack it on the floor as it comes down. We'll tuck the toes behind us, press into the hands, and we'll step back for a downward facing dog. Wiggle it out, pedal our legs, wiggle our tails. Good, and now we'll lift up that left foot back behind us. Good, kick ourselves in the butt, open up that hip. Good, and then stepping all the way forward into our lunge on this side. Good, lifting our hands for a high lunge. Good, and then lengthening our legs, and we'll open ourselves up for star pose, wide-legged star pose. Good, exhale, fold forward with those wide legs. So our tail should be pointing up toward the sky or getting that way. Our legs are long, chests are low. Good, and then walking those hands right underneath of our shoulders again. Good, so our hips are in the same plane as our ankles. Our hands are underneath of our shoulders. Good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to walk those hands over to the left foot. See if our right hand can reach that foot. And then the left hand can reach up to the sky. Good. And slowly we'll come back to the center. And then over to the right. Walking those hands over to the right side. Left hand, see if we can find the foot or the ankle. And then we'll lift up the right hand to the sky. And then back down to our fold. Even drop the head. Walk our hands through our legs a little bit further. And then bend those knees. And we'll slowly roll our way up into star pose. Hands come together at the top. Exhale, we'll bend that right knee. Hands come to our hearts. Left toes can point up toward the sky as we sit down into this side lunge. Good. Inhaling up, let's point those left toes to the front of the mat. Good. And then we'll come back down to our lunge. Step back, three-legged dog. Good. Bend the knee, we'll come forward, touch the left elbow, press back, and we'll crisscross over to the right elbow. Beautiful job. And back. And now coming forward, laying that knee behind the left wrist, flexing the left foot, lowering the right knee down, softening the leg and the foot. Lower those hips down toward the mat. Pull the right hip forward, the left hip back. Settle here for a couple of breaths so that you can find where you're at. And then when you're ready, you can walk our hands forward to our elbows. We can come all the way down to our fold. Just a couple more breaths here. Feel the release in our hips. And then when we're ready, we'll slowly help our way up onto our hands. If we're not already there, we'll kick ourselves toward the butt with that right foot. Reach back with the hand, pulling that foot in towards our bum. But still pulling this right hip forward as well. And then we'll gently release, lower the foot down, tuck the toes, press into the hands. Let's step back, downward facing dog, wiggle it out. Good. Inhale, let's come forward into our plank. Good. Let's lower the right knee. We'll keep that left leg nice and long. Lift up the left hand for a modified side plank on this side. And back down to our plank. Lower down to our tummies. Inhale to our choice of back bend. And now we're just going to lower those knees to the floor. Push ourselves back to child's pose. Good. Hips are over our heels. Let's walk our hands backwards. We'll come to seated. We're sitting on our heels. Tuck that tail. Good. And then we'll place our hands behind our butts on our mats. We'll pull those shoulders back and lift our hips up toward the sky for baby camel. And lower down. Lift the palms, stretch the fingers, and we'll come forward into our forward fold. Good. Swish those feet over to one side so we can come down all the way down to our butts. Bring the legs out in front of us. And shake them out if we want. Wiggle them around. It's always good to have those little wiggle breaks. Good. And now what we're going to do is we are going to tuck the left foot in like it wants to kick ourselves in the bum. We're going to cross the right foot over the knee. So we're not quite going into this shoelace pose. And we're going to direct this right hip down toward the mat. So when we cross, this right hip wants to come with it. See if we can just mentally urge it down toward the floor here. We're going to hug that right knee in with our left arm and lift our chest. Squeeze the thigh and the belly together. Good. And now the right hand will find the floor behind us. We inhale and we lengthen. Exhale. We're going to turn to the right. We lengthen on our inhales, creating space. Exhale. We deepen the twist ever so slightly, encouraging our body, never forcing it. Good. And gently we'll unwind. And we'll go all the way around to the left, hands find the floor, and we just round. Good. And back to the center. Now what we can do is we can lengthen that left leg underneath of us. We're going to keep this right knee bent. And we have a couple of choices. We can just kind of open up our knee, still crossed over our left, our ankle over our left knee. We can even bend that left knee if this is where we're at. But I would also like us to try cradling the baby. So we're going to hold that right foot. We're going to tuck it into our left elbow. And then tuck our right knee into our right elbow. See if we can clasp our hands and grow our spine nice and tall. Again, pulling the tummy and the thigh together, our chest in toward that shin. If this is too much for us, we can always go back to this figure 4 where we can have a little bit more space if our hip is super tight. If our hip is not super tight, we can also increase the difficulty, challenge ourselves by doing it lying down. This is a little bit more intense, but we honestly just did it when we did pigeon. Just seems a little bit funky. Good. And now let's release that leg, shake them out. And then from here, let's keep our legs out long, grow our spine, and we'll just do a little forward fold. And releasing, helping ourselves up. And now we'll work our way over to the left side. So we'll tuck that right leg, cross the left over the right, foot comes to the floor, knee is nice and high. This left hip over here, we are directing it down toward the floor. It may not go all the way down, but we're working toward that floor. We're hugging the knee in to our chest and our belly. Good. We lengthen, big inhale, exhale. Let's turn to the left. Our left hand can find the floor behind us. Inhale, we lengthen, inviting space in between all of our little vertebra. And then as we exhale, we relax, twist a little deeper. Let's do one more big breath. Lengthen. Exhale. Stay for that exhale. And then we'll slowly unwind. We'll come all the way around to the right. Just curve and bow. And then we'll come back to the center. We'll lengthen this right leg out in front of us. Then again, we can do our figure four if we like, or we can come and cradle the baby. So helping that left foot into the crook of our right elbow. Our left elbow finds the knee. Nice straight back as we do this. And keep this right foot flexed. We can just little wiggles. Again, if we would like, we can lay backwards, but keeping that big, long, straight back. Good, and then we'll gently release. Wiggle those babies out. If we like, we can do windshield wipers to give that little wiggle. And then we'll roll up into our ball and we'll rock our way backwards. We can rock forward and backward. Might get a couple little pops. We can tuck and roll side to side if that's what we like. And then we roll up into this little ball. And we'll open those knees nice and wide. Bottoms of the feet point up to the sky. We'll hold on to the pinky toe side with our hands, elbows to the inside of the knees. Relax our head and our shoulder into our mat. And we'll settle our way into dead bug. Pulling those knees down in toward our mat. And don't forget our tail. Let's roll that spine, the pelvis, everything down into our mat. Get that tailbone coming down. Good. Let's release those feet. Bring the knees in. Roll up into our ball. And now let's hold on to this right shin. Hug it in nice and tight into our chest. Left leg will lengthen up toward the sky, reaching toward the sky, and then we'll lower down, still lengthening in that left leg. As we lower it down to the floor, and even roll around in our ankle and that right foot. Hug that knee in nice, nice, nice and tight. Good. And now let's lift up that left leg. We'll release the right up to the sky. We're still going to hold on to this right leg back behind the thigh. Left leg is just going to, again, lower down and then come back up ever so slowly, up and down. All the time, lengthening in that right leg. Let's do 2 more with the left. Good. And now let's bend that right knee, bring the left in. We'll roll up into our egg. We'll move over to the left side. So holding on to that left shin, hugging it tight, tight, tight into our chest. Right leg reaches toward the sky and then lengthens as it lowers down onto our mats. Hugging tight. Roll around in the ankle here with the left foot. Wiggle the toes. And then raise up that right leg again. We'll release the left, holding behind the thigh or behind the knee or calf of that left leg, really lengthening it all the way up to the sky. And then the right will just come up and down. Let's do a couple more here with that right leg, up and down, up and down. And then both knees will come into our chest. We'll roll up into our ball. One more big inhale here. And then exhale. Let's just release into a very comfortable position. Legs can be out long, can go into a bound angle or cross legs. Our hands just rest to our sides. And we close our eyes. And we soften our jaw. We relax our tongue. Maybe even swallow a couple of times, relaxing the throat. We breathe in and we breathe out. Let's deepen our breath. We'll wiggle our fingers and our toes. We slowly bring awareness back into our bodies. We listen to what it's asking for, and we'll give it that twist or the wiggle that it needs to wake up a little bit. And then we'll roll up into our ball. We'll rock over onto our side. When it's time, we'll help ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. And we'll take this time to check in with how we're feeling right now after our practice. And we'll bring our hands together at our hearts. Making sure that we give ourselves some gratitude for the gifts that we just gave ourselves. Gifts of movement, a little bit of heat, a little bit of length, some strength, some peace, and the connection that we have created between our consciousness and our bodies. It is always my pleasure to be able to help you through your practice. I hope that you feel better today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.